Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be diving into something called as bash or born again shell. Whether you are trying to solidify your skills or understand fundamentals of bash and its powerful scripting capabilities, this video will cover all the basics. Well, to begin with, what is bash? Well, bash is a commonly used command line interpreter as well as a scripting language which is available across several distributions of Linux as well as Mac OS. It basically allows you as the user to execute certain commands and automate tasks and manage system processes efficiently. In order to check if you are using bash, you basically run this specific command called echo $shell, and once you hit enter you would see an output. If you see this output, something like forward user bin zsh, depending on your version or distribution, it would look something like /bin/bash. If so, you are in the right place. You can also check your bash version with this command called bash:\version, and once you hit enter you should see some values which appear before you in your terminal, which would showcase a version number as well as a release. So yeah, this version number can be older or newer depending on your type of distribution. Bash also operates in two modes. You basically have the interactive mode, which is by default, where you basically type in commands. In this case right now we are in the interactive mode, whereby which we basically type certain commands directly into the terminal one by one. Whereas in scripting mode, you basically write scripts in a .sh file and you can basically perform several tasks at once. So yeah, you are trying to automate certain tasks at that point by creating these so-called .sh files. You might be wondering, when I executed $shell through the echo command, you basically got an output. So yeah, these $shell value, this particular value is a variable which stores system settings. Commonly you can also showcase other values, such as, let's say, we can display the home directory information by typing echo $home, and once you hit enter you would see something like this. Similarly, you can also showcase the user current user information as well by typing echo $user. Once you hit enter you would see the user who is in charge of right now controlling his or her PC. You can also use something like $path in order to showcase the directories for executable files. So in this case, depending on the kinds of softwares or which have been installed, all that data is basically stored in that. Yeah, so if you want to basically create your own variable, you can basically type something like export, let's say myvar, something like this, and let's say we set it up to hello bash, something like this. And once I hit enter, and let's see if this information exists, you can type something like $myvar. Here I am setting up my_var as the variable name. This can be any value or any arbitrary name that you choose to give. Once you hit enter, you can see that this kind of an information has been stored into the system. To make this kind of a change permanent, you would basically add it to something as an important config file called this one, bash source file, and if you want to do so, you can basically perform an execution of this command, but I would not be doing that as I do not wish to add this variable to my configuration settings. So yeah, another aspect of bash is that bash follows a command execution order. Whenever you run a command, bash basically checks it in this order. If whenever you execute a command, there are certain aliases or shortcuts associated with that, which can be used alternatively. Those are first of all checked. Another way is that functions can be defined by the user, which can be called through a script. There are also built-in commands. As you can see, certain pre-existing commands already have been demonstrated at this point. Moreover, external commands can be set up through the previously aforementioned structure through the bash or through $path. So yeah, to check how a command is basically executed, you can basically also check out something by using the type command. Let's say with the help of ls, let's just randomly create an empty directory. Let's type in ls. You can see that I just created a random empty directory called dir, and once you execute ls, which is used for listing out the contents of the current directory, you can see that file exists. So in order to check how a command is executed, let's type type followed by ls in order to check how this command is executed. As I mentioned, every command has an alias. As here you can see that when I type ls, you can see the original command is an alias for the listing operation, and yeah, so certain values are associated with that. Yeah, so let's get started with the basic process of scripting. In order to start with scripting with bash, you can basically use a text editor. In this case, you will be using either nano or vi or vim, which is vi improved. As a user, I leave this up to you to choose. In this scenario, I would be using vi. However, nano is also a good alternative. So let's type nano myscript.sh in order to create this particular script. As you can see, we have now opened up the nano text editor window. So yeah, in this particular script, I would be basically be printing hello world into the terminal. So for that, let us import our shebang. So we type bin bash. By doing this, we are effectively importing the bash shebang into our file in order to execute and make this specific file executable by bash itself, because this file would be saved as a arbitrary name followed by .sh. So let's just type echo followed by, let's just say hello world, and once I have written my command, I press Ctrl X, press Y, and then I press enter. Here you can see that the script file has been created. However, if I right now try to run my script file, you will see that it will not have a permission authorized for it to execute. So this is because when you type ls-l, and once you hit enter, you can see the read, write and execute privileges have not been granted to the user for my myscript.sh. So in order to modify the privileges for this specific file, I will write something like a plus x chmod a plus x followed by myscript.sh. Once I hit enter and type ls-l, you will see that my file has been given the read, write and execute permissions which satisfy the command structure in order for it to get executed. So let's try that again with myscript.sh, and once I hit enter, you will see that the file has been executed and our echo command has worked. So here we have successfully imported the bash shebang into our file, and we have authorized by providing the required privileges for myscript.sh, and upon execution we have effectively executed the echo command, giving us hello world into the terminal. We can also modify the same file in another script editor called as VI. VI is a little bit uh, quirky in order to get started. For a beginner, Nano is highly useful. For this case, I would be switching to VI. Once I write VI followed by the arbitrary name of my file, I can press I to get into insert mode, and here I will be able to modify my file. So let's try to change the file structure with the help of other concepts like variables. So variables are used in order to showcase essential aspects related to storing values such as numbers, strings, or command outputs. Here the syntax structure would basically look something like this: a variable name, which can be any arbitrary value. Usually you would use a variable name which is satisfying the requirement while you are coding. So here we are writing name followed by the name that we are trying to assign, here which we will be using John. Let us set the age to 25, and we can echo this information out into the terminal. Let's say something like my name is John. So here, since we have the variable name, we would be specifying that container $name, which would possess this specific value John. And once you execute this command, you would see that this value would be appearing instead of name, because this value would be effectively be represented through the name variable. So yeah, so let's try to now do the same with age. I am, let's say age is old. So yeah, we can just escape, write and quit, and let's type ls. Let's try to execute the same command, and voila, we have assigned the name John, where the string value John has been assigned to the name variable. The same process has been conducted as well as for the number 25, which was assigned to the variable age. And once we use echo, we basically are printing out this specific string value into the terminal. And as you can see, this is the expanded version of our string along with the variables, which basically prints out the string and the number, which is John and 25. Moreover, I would like to highlight that whenever you assign variable values, there shouldn't be any space between the equal to signs while we are defining the variables. So yeah, let's just get out of this and let us try to now create a bash file, which basically allows the user to basically send an input through the read command. So yeah, for that let's just create a new script. Let's say input script. Let's just write something like this, hit enter. As you can see, we have just created the file. Now we will import the shebang file. Always remember, if you are using VI, you have to press I to get into insert mode. Let us import the shebang file. Let's write bin / bash. So yeah, let's just type the structure. I would first write the structure, and let us then start going into the explanation bit. Let's just read something like this. So name, let's just echo hello, let's go name. So yeah, what have I done here? Well, here the first part basically is prompting the user to enter a name. Here this would be displaying itself consistently onto the terminal as long as the user has not entered the value. The read username basically waits for the user's input, and that particular data is basically stored into user underscore name. Once that data has been acquired, we basically print out that particular greeting with regards to the entered data, which is the name. So yeah, let's just try to execute this. Press escape, right and quit ls. You can see that you can see that if you are using ls, you would see your files have a specific color code associated with them, which is indicative of their executable privileges. So yeah, always try to change your upgrade the user privileges before you try to execute these files. So when let's just try ls-l, you can see that our files have all the appropriate privileges in order for it to be an executable file. So yeah, let's hit enter. As you can see, let's just try to enter a name. Let's just say Alice or something like that. So you can see that here we have effectively entered a name, and that name got accepted. And since that name was stored under user underscore name, that specific value was printed through the string and through the expanded string over here as a greeting. So yeah, so we effectively have demonstrated how to basically take a user input. Yeah, let's just clear our workspace, and yeah, let's just try to now demonstrate the aspect associated with decision making or conditionals. With regards to conditionals, you might already know this. In other programming languages, you have if else, while, and so on. Similar to this, bash also allows you to perform such conditional statements in order to perform decision making based on those aforementioned conditions. So yeah, let's just create a new condition. Let's just say let's just write, let's just say something like this. So yeah, decision.sh. So yeah, again we always import our shebang in order to execute this bash file. Just write echo, and here before we for the purposes of this specific demonstration, let's say we will ask the user for a number, and then we will check whether that specific number is greater than or less than the number 10, and based on that we will basically spit out a specific message into the terminal determining that specific information. So yeah, so let's just prompt the user to enter a number. Let's just give some information like that, and let's just say this. Yeah, let's just capture that specific information into num. Let's just write the conditionals. Let's just so the structure of condition would always be within square brackets. Let's just write number -gt 10. Yeah, so whenever you are using greater than whenever you are checking for conditions, you might be aware of the relational operators greater than, less than, or equal to. Here in bash, bash operates on another system of -gt. Let's just try to greater than, equal to, and less than -lt. So whenever you want to check for conditions, you would be using these contemporary values, and please do not confuse these operators to perform the traditional ones that we are always familiar with, such as in Python, because these won't work in bash. So yeah, let's just write. So here we have we are effectively writing the statement: if $num is greater than 10, then we would write echo. Let's say the number. Here we will just write the number $num is greater than 10, some structure like this. Yes, so yeah, once we have done so, we will set up the else statement. This statement will be executed if the above statement has been proven false. So let's write the number num is less than 10. Okay, here we will also write it can also be 10 actually. So it can be 10 or less than 10, because this condition here is only checking the condition here is only checking for if it is greater than 10. It is 10 or less, something like this. And you close your conditionals by writing if in a reverse manner. So if here would become fi. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. We will write escape, write quit, then chmod x is a plus x and decision search. Yeah, now let's just try to execute this file. Yeah, so as expected, it is asking me to enter a number. Let's write something like 42. Once you hit enter, you can see that it has been deduced that this number is greater than 10, because our conditions have been checked appropriately. If you try to enter like let's say 10, you would say it is 10 or less, because here we have not specified greater than or equal to. So yeah, that's the difference. So yeah, so to go back into the command structure, here the read num basically takes the input from the user and stores that data into the variable num. Here later on we also can set up some structure like this. If $num greater than 10, then we basically check if the given number is greater than 10. Here -gt, please remember -gt stands for greater than, -eq stands for equal to, while -lt stands for less than. If this condition has been dissatisfied, let's say, or if this condition is false, then the else block will get executed, and here the statement echo the number $num, which is effectively the number that the user has entered, is less than 10 or is equal to 10. So this statement would be executed, and finally the conditional statement would close. So yeah, so we have effectively set this in a manner that works. So let's clear workspace. In bash you can also work with loops, where loops allow you to basically execute a series of instructions or commands repeatedly over a specified interval. So yeah, let's just try to do that. Loops are basically we will be diving into two types for the time being, as this is just the introductory version session. So yeah, first is the for loop and second one is the while loop. The for loop basically would be iterating over a sequence of values which has been provided, while the while loop would be executing commands as long as the condition that has been specified would remain true. So yeah, in order to demonstrate this, let's just set up a loops.sh file. Yeah, always press I to go into an insert mode. Let's bring in our bash. So yeah, let's just set up the for loop. In this case I will be just giving random 1 2 3 numbers in order to just go through them, these individual elements. Since we have set this up similar to the if structure, we would write something like do. So for I, in the numbers that we are specifying or the elements that we are providing, we will be doing a specific operation. That's why we basically mention do. let's just try to write the command echo. So we will be just be printing the number, let's just say $I, and then we will close by writing done. So yeah, what here actually happens is that the first part basically would be looping through the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. As it does, it would do this particular operation where the value which has been stored or the elements that are being looped through by the I variable will be printed into the terminal. So yeah, we are basically printing each number in a sequence, and once that operation has been completed, we basically execute the loop. So let's just write and save. We write chmod a plus x and then our file. So yeah, let's just hit enter. As you can see, our file basically has been able to go through the numbers one by one, and by doing so we are also performing the operation echo number $I, which basically would be printing the values of those elements subsequently as long as we are passing through those elements one by one. So yeah, the same operation can be done with the help of while, but here we would need to set up a specific condition which would basically check if, let's say, the value, let's say we will set up a count value, and this count value would basically always be checking whether it is less than or equal to 5, and if so, we will continue to print the value which is stored within count. And as we do so, we will always be incrementing as one loop ends over the other, and as long as the condition remains satisfied, this operation will continue. But at some point, since the increment operation is happening, it would be equal to some arbitrary number that we are setting up as a flag. So once that value has been reached, or that threshold has been reached, the while loop would basically exit. So yeah, let us set up that specific condition. Let's write while loop .sh, import the bash file. Let's just write bin /bash. Yep, and let's set up our count. So yeah, we'll set it to 0. Let's just write the while loop again. Whenever you are writing conditions or loops, you would always be setting your statements within the square brackets. Let's just set up our count value. If it is less than 5, let's set it to something like this. We will be doing or performing the process of printing the value count into the terminal. So here, count value is $count. However, at the same time, we really need to also increment our counter, otherwise we would end up in an infinite loop, which we do not want to do so. And then finally we end this loop with done, and yeah, we just escape, right, quit. So yeah, before I do the execution bit, let's just try to chmod a plus x while loop .sh, just loop.sh. So here what's actually happening is that we have initialized the count variable to 0, followed by the while loops. The first part of the while loop basically would run, basically checking whether the count variable is less than or equal to 5. As long as this condition is true, we will be performing this operation of printing the value of count into the terminal. So what's expected here is that we would basically see count 0 followed by an increment. We come back here, we basically see 1, which is less than 5. Since 0 has been previously been incremented by 1, we would again see that this is not the true the case is this is not this condition is true. So because of that reason, we would again go back into the loop and print that value as count value 1. After that, we again go here, which increments that value to 2. 2 is less than 5, and since that statement remains true, we basically again print the same value 2, which would again increment by 3, and so on. So this is how the while loop works. However, let's say if the value is equal to 5, it will still work because it is less than or equal to 5. So yeah, we will basically see some so let's see what we will see. Then once you hit enter, you can see that our values keep getting printed till we hit the threshold of 6. Once the variable value of count becomes 6, the condition 6 is not less than 5 becomes true. So this statement is false, and therefore you basically see the while loop come to an close. So yeah, this is pretty nifty. Yeah, so let's try to talk about other aspects related to bash, such as functions. Well, similar in other programming languages, functions basically are a set of code which has been defined as a block of a command which can be executed multiple times while whenever you call it. So yeah, let's just try to set up a function. Let's just say function.sh into insert mode. Let's just import our bin bash. So yeah, let's just set up the first function. This function would basically be greeting the user. Let's say we will be passing a value, and that value would be the name, and since we are passing the name, we would like to say or greet with that specific value. So yeah, let's just write something like that. Once we go over here, we basically write greet, which is the name of the function, followed by the variable value. So here we will write something like this. So yeah, let's just look at the structure of our function. So here the function definition basically involves defining the function with a name. So here the name of our function is greet. Within the function, we basically write hello $1 with an echo command. So here we will be printing hello, followed by the first argument, which is represented or captured through $1 and is basically passed basically goes through the function. So this value or the argument here is the name. This is basically passed to our function, and this is captured by $1. And once we call greet, it will basically print hello Alice upon function call. So yeah, so to summarize, greet Alice basically calls the function greet and passes this value Alice into greet. $1 basically is the first parameter which basically captures this term and which has been passed to the to greet whenever you call the function. So yeah, let's exit chmod. Yeah, let's just wait a minute, let me just clear my workspace. So write chmod plus x, let's say function. Let's just write function search. So as you can see, as expected, we get the output hello Alice. Yeah, moreover, similar to this, we can again modify the same command to accept multiple arguments by setting up multiple parameters. Let's just say we can just go to insert mode. Let's just say, yeah, something like this. Let's try to pass, let's say, 2 more, arguments, so let's set it up by writing like greet Alice. Let's just write, I guess, and just say something like this. Give it. Yeah, so same way we can basically set up multiple arguments, and whenever you set up multiple arguments, you also have to set up the parameters which can basically accept those same values, otherwise we will get an error. We can also set up debugging, which basically helps us to identify issues within the script by displaying the commands as well as their executions. In this case, in order to set up that debug mode, we basically would set up something like, let's go to insert mode, you would write set -x. Here, when you write set -x, we are basically enabling debugging mode, which basically would be printing each command before the execution. So let's just try to use this for a change and see what's the difference. So because we set up set -x enabling the debugging mode, you can see each of the commands before they get executed. So here the first command was basically greet, which is the function call along with the arguments which are names, and these are basically passed to our greet function. The second command is the echo command, which basically prints out or receives the arguments into the parameters $i, $2 and $3. So yeah, here you can basically see that, and this is the final output. So yeah, in order to disable the debugging mode, we can also do something like set, let's go to insert mode, let's just write set +x. Once you do that, you basically have disabled the debugging mode for this specific script. Otherwise, you can also do something like setting up the debug mode whilst or before you are executing this particular script. Let's say bash -x followed by let's say function.sh. In this case, we have set up the debugging mode, and hence we are basically executing function.sh in debug mode, and basically it would show each of the commands which are being executed. So yeah, this is pretty useful for troubleshooting purposes. Yeah, so another thing that we can always use is to set up comments. As if you are a programmer, you should know these. Comments are basically set up in order to enhance readability. Comments basically follow with the hash symbol. You can basically use it like that. So like this is setting up debug mode for this script. So it's a good practice to always use your comments wisely. So yeah, and yes, always follow indentation. It improves code structure and readability, as you can see here. This is an indent, this space before and after within our file. Let me just go back into my file. So I hope we basically went into several concepts all at once, but this is an overview. We will be diving into more in-depth basics related to each of these concepts more in the forthcoming videos, and yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye.